Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Satoshi here, and welcome back to another 2S videos. So this video is going to focus on the most budget build right now for solo challenge mode. Now, most of you guys probably just going to run DPS with your sister, but I personally recommend clerics. Now, the reason why I recommend clerics because it's so strong in CMOs. Every time you cast a heals a monster, they are going to get a buffs, and each buff going to increase their damage. It's stacked up to 3 times, by the way, which is really good, boosting the assistant monster damage even further. Now, another reason why you want to do this because of the new Mercenary Badge shop reward. If you notice that every single entry voucher has a time expiration day on it. For example, channel mode entries had 1-day expiration, so you technically only have like 24 hours to burn this reset. If you buy it around midnight or something, you probably have 1 or 2 days, but then again, that is not going to be enough for you to say out this reset, so you want to burn it as soon as possible or whenever you get them. Another problem is this error code right here. This is the chat server issue that people have been talking about, that they're trying to find a party on the word chat, and sometimes it's very hard because you have to wait and wait until this error code is gone, and then you can start doing the challenge mode auto match. Now the problem with this is that there is the entry limit. You actually need gear specifically for this entry limit. For example, like I want to do stage 2 for the challenge mode auto matching, but I don't have transcending gears. For example, I don't have transcending for the glove and for the boot, so I'm technically missing out 2 of these in order to enter stage 2. But with that, you can actually do just normal TMs with the solo version. Now, the solo version is not going to give you a lot of resources or reward, but it's still worth it. You're basically trying to beat the meta of the skins, especially when it comes to the channel mode reset and having the expiration day on it, which is really bad, by the way. And so let's go ahead and jump right into what I'm about to talk about for this build. This build only requires 2 specific classes, Deputies and Priest. Now, the reason why I recommend Priest because you want to survive as long as possible, and having that extra aspersion as well as these revive buffs help a lot actually, because this time only have 2-minute cooldown, and you use Deputies for cooldown reduction is like 1 minute or something, which is really nice too. Aspersion is gonna give you the extra defense. For example, let's gonna buff myself real quick. And if you notice that I have roughly 49,000 physical defense, this is actually quite a lot, by the way, because you can actually survive a lot of physical attack from monsters, especially for episode 12 as well as episode 13. For the episode 12s, I recommend using Shelter first if you have a really bad assister. Like for example, for this character, for this account, like it's completely like really bad. Look at this. All the assister are just so bad. I don't even have a really strong assister. I do have a few assister cards, but they aren't that any good. The only assister that's actually carrying me right now is the Farsalor. And maybe this planned monster, I don't know, and Tormenta is barely doing any damage, but it's really good for tanking. Look at the HP. It's almost 600,000 HP, and I also has Ashkanaz, which give me an extra massing heal for the monster, etc. But then again, it's not that great. Now, because you have a really bad assister, with this strategy, you can actually just do one assister and run Shelter. Shelter monster is really weak compared to the jungles as well as the fortress, outskirts, ruins, and path of decision. But anyway, going back to the skill build, the skill build is pretty straightforward for the cleric circle. Max out heal, max out guardian saint, 1.25 probably the max everything are insecure. Face has been changed as well. It's gonna erase the threat of monster that attacking you for a period of time, which lasts like 20 seconds, which is actually really good in the solo version of CVM. So this way, the monster can focus on your assister. Next is going to be Priest, max out aspersions, 5 points from Monstra. This is really good for drawing straight, by the way. 1 point to Blessing. Blessing right now is kind of weird situation in my opinion. It's really good for Champlain, especially for additional damage and scale with the Champlain Vivora. Go into Resurrections, 5 points, max it out. And then 5 into Revive, max it out. Max it out. 1 point to Sacraments. It's only going to give you that extra hit if you're playing auto attack build, but then again, it's not necessarily needed. And then the rest going to turn dead if you ever plan to use this character to do DCP. Pack Doctors, everything going to healing factor, and the rest doesn't really matter. But if you plan to use the Platter of Vivora, maybe during like Gen Fuse or something, 1 point to Pandemic is really good as well. Now, because I'm not putting 1 point into Pandemics, I'm gonna get my skill point when I reach higher levels. That I'll put it in Pandemic. Maxed out the streams, 1 big max, maxed out Mother Philly, 1 point to Fubigate. Fubigate is really good to deal with poison debuff, by the way. And then the rest go into Incineration. Deputies. Now, Deputies, here's the good part. Here's some of the good part. You want to max out Carl. This is really good, and let me explain why. Carl does a decent amount of damage, by the way, because even if you have a really bad weapon, for example, like myself, I only have 18,000 magic attack because I'm using one-hand mace, especially for water equipment, and that 18,000 magic attack can actually do a lot of damage, especially for Carl. Even though you're healing your sister to get them buffed and to increase their damage, you also want to chip in any possible support to help out your sister. So maxing out really help out. You can actually max out the cardboard tree as well. If you're using Miko and not Plat Doctor, you can actually use Miko and Clap and extend the ward tree for extra silent, which is really good, by the way. Really good against boss as well. 1 point to cardboards. This way you can actually get the art skills, which increase, I believe, yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, increase the level of the deputy statue by 1, which is really good, by the way. Max out light map for cooldown reductions, 1 point for background. You don't necessarily need this, to be honest. I can just take 1 point off and put it into the Zamana statue for the extra reduced SP, which is really good for you to spam heal. Combat skills, pretty much there's nothing there. Now, another class you can actually do is actually Oracle. Oracle is so good in solo teaming, especially when you're doing solo by yourself. Arcane Energies, definitely want to pick it up because this is a free SP almost every minute. It also increases damage for your party as well if you're planning to use this character for any other contents. And then the other one is going to be Death Sentence. Now, the reason why Death Sentence is so good because it's reset every time your sister killed a monster. So this way you can spam it. You can actually synergize with Arcane Energy and continuously spam this. You also get Divine Might, which give you 1 extra skill to all of your skills. Like for example, you can actually get extra cooldown reduction for the Lima statue as well as XP reduction for the Zyma. This is so good that you might want to consider switching out Plat Doctor for Oracle, but based on my playstyle, because I want to keep my character alive as much as possible, it's best that you Plat Doctor, so I'll get that extra movement speed, I'll get the permanent heals, and I don't have to waste my heals on myself. And again, I can heal their sister instead. Alright, next is going to be the assister. Now the question is, which assister you should be bringing for your character? Well, just starting off, you need to get your assister to level 400. In order to do this, there are a few ways to do it. The first one is going to be running CM with other players. Now, that is pretty straightforward, but the second one is going to be dungeon. Level 400 dungeon with AX time or any experience bonuses is going to give you 1.1 or more building experience per run. This is a lot, by the way, and you can actually find a party to do this every single day because so many people is running it at the moment. Additionally, you need to run assistant dungeon as well. These assistant dungeon will give you the assistant time, which you require it to use to level up your sister even faster. It's gonna give you a 100% XP bonuses every time you do dungeon, child mode, etc. So this way you can actually level up your sister even faster than before. Alright, so going back to which assister you should be bringing, I recommend Foster Lord and Tantalizer. If you can get Foster Lord to 2-star, you're good to go. 3-star is even better. Having multiple Foster Lord can easily just destroy any map. Now, another thing that I recommend is getting multiple Tantalizer. Tantalizer has a lot of physical defense compared to Foster Lord. Foster Lord, this is a level 444, by the way, and look at the physical defense. It's only 57,000. And if you max out Tantalizer, the Tantalizer can get up to like 90,000 physical defense or maybe even more. And not to mention that Tantalizer auto attack is really good as well. It got a burst skill, low cooldown, but also easy to manage technically. Now it's an insect type, so insect type have a huge advantage in evasion. So monsters are likely to kind of miss the attack. So that's really good as well. There is another card you can actually use, and that is going to be a Proto Horse. Proto Horse is actually one of my favorites because Proto Horse can actually CC monster with his attack. So you can actually have 2 Proto Horse, like maybe in this 3rd and 4th slot, and you have 2 main TP like Foster Lord and Tantalizer. You can actually use Skullcubus. Skullcubus is actually the most broken assistant right now. Now, let me explain why. Because Skullcubus second 2-star, I believe, it has this AoE damage that like do continued burst attack. And it has a really low cooldown, like roughly like 10 or 15 seconds. And if you have multiple 2-star Succubus, you're literally dominating episode 12 maps as well as episode 13, so which is really good, and that's not bad at all. Now another thing I do recommend is actually Mistress as well. Mistress is actually really good. It's a devil type, but it also has this lightning bolt attack on 2-star, so you can actually just use this one as well for your DPS. But overall, when it comes to budget, Fossilor Tantalizer is the best DPS that you should be picking up for your build. And 2 Proto is probably like 2-star or something for the maybe like CC auto attack, and that's really good as well. Alright, next is going to be the gameplays. I'm going to break down a few things that you need to do first to set up your run. Now, this is solo version of the shelter, which is really weak by the way, because all these monsters barely do any damage. The first thing you want to do is actually drop your statue, get a cooldown reduction buff as well as SP reduction, and then start spamming statue and start using Q on your sister. Now, the buff on your sister is going to last very long, so you have enough time to put the buffs on your sister. Now, the first bosses is going to be pretty straightforward, but as you get into stage 3 and stage 4 and stage 5, the boss is going to get stronger and stronger. The best thing you can actually do, use healing factor on yourself, keep yourself alive, drop in the revive up if you can, and drop more damage statue like the old statue as much as possible, or dropping in silent statue to silence the boss. Like I said, if you have Miko, you can actually use this clap and you don't have to worry about statue for the rest of your lives, which is really good. Or using Oracle for the rest of the runs or the rest of your life without running out of mana, which is even better by the way. And the extra damage going to the monster and the bosses is even better. Kind of increase the amount of damage output, but also reduce the time that you run the channel mode. So just in case, I'm going to show you guys my equipment again. I'm using full body gears along with a Cognitive accessory, which you get it from the Mercenary Badge shop, which is really good for healing by the way. Now for the body gears, I'm actually using Mindset Inker for all my equipment as well as my weapon and the shields. I think the shield is more focused on the scale one where you get an extra SPR. Now for the status, it's going to be Con and SPR for healing status and Con for extra physical defense and a higher HP. So this way I can keep myself alive. Now, one thing I do want to point out is actually bosses. There are a few bosses that you need to worry about. One of them is the Fossilor, and the other one I believe is the Poison Toast. And his name is Moldyhorn. This guy has so many poison skills that you need to watch out. He had this poison spit on the ground, which does a lot of damage. By the way, he had a poison fart all around him in the close range as well as far range. Now, the best thing you can actually do is send far away as much as possible. Let your sister do the damage and keep healing your sister and buffing them. Now, like I said before, the priest is the best class you should be picking up because it keeps yourself alive. Like, notice at this part, like, I'm taking poison damage, but I'm not dead. But if somehow I make a mistake and I'm dead, that's cost you like literally just 3 or 5 minutes of your run. That's really bad, by the way. And finally, he's dead. Okay, so one thing I do want to break down when it comes to reward, because this is a solo CM, you are going to less silver as well as less material, as you can see here. I only got 670k silver, which is not bad in my opinion, especially for a solo CM. Now, by the time you have a better sister as well as better setup, you can actually go for Path of Decisions or episode 13 or above. Episode 13 is gonna give you roughly 900k silvers for stage 5, and Path of Decisions is gonna give you around 800k or something, maybe around there. But I heard some people got like 950k or so or more on episode 13. I don't know, I gotta test out more a little bit. But anyway, that is pretty much for these videos. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video give you guys some insight and tips on how to farm early, especially with all these changes for episode 13. This is Sadoji once again, and I will see you all in the next videos. Peace out.